D3?
Yeah.
Right? Great, we're in the right place. My name is Zach. I'm UC Davis class of 2011. I've been in Square since then. And it's been great, so let's get started. A couple of quick notes. We put together a web tutorial for D3. It's going to be kind of the same topics as like what I'm going to go through here. It's in that second one right there. And later on, we're going to be doing an interactive tutorial, and you can get kickstarted. I'll put these URLs up later, so don't worry about it. And there's my email in case you have any questions. So quick, what is D3? D3 is a library that will help us with data visualization in the browser. And what do we mean by that? Data visualization is looking at charts, looking at lines, looking at all sorts of different stuff, looking at data, and it's in the browser. And so that means it's like interactive potentially, right? So here's an example of a box plot that moves, and it's basically just up in the browser. And so what do we mean by that? You can open up your Chrome Inspector and find out, look, there's using, here's SVG elements that are, just like anything else that you use. And this is actually really special because D3 is based a lot on web standards, and we take advantage of that. So there's a lot of tooling around this, and using standard means things are pretty portable, and it's pretty great. So which specifically web standards are we going to use? Using D3 kind of requires knowledge of basically 4 different things. HTML, who's used HTML before? Okay, great. Who's used CSS before? Also great. JavaScript? Great. And who's used SVG? Cool. That's what we're going to learn probably the most. SVG, has anybody ever made something in Illustrator? Adobe Illustrator? Some sort of vector drawing tool? Cool. You can export your files from there in SVG, and SVG is just an XML format that represents the lines and all that stuff. And browsers can render that. So what we're going to use all these different things to make SVGs, among other things. Just as a quick little aside, D3 can also use the Canvas API. Has anybody ever heard of the Canvas API in the browser? It basically means you get basically a frame buffer to draw to. We won't use that, but D3 can also help with that. Cool. So our goal today in this workshop is we're going to make a simple scatter plot. It sounds really simple, but it turns out it's going to be a little bit of work because in D3 we have to do the legwork ourselves. D3 helps us do that, but we'll show you how this goes. So, for example, when we think, okay, we're going to draw some lines, we're going to draw some dots. We think, okay, cool. The origin is in the bottom left, right? That's like where we, most people kind of put stuff. And we're going to draw, suppose you want to draw a circle, you're going to go left. I don't know the mouse, but anyways, you're going to kind of left and go up, and boom, we have drawn our circle. Turns out, no, it's not quite that simple because in SVG, the origin is in the top left. And that's just how it works. It's a wide coordinate system, and that's what we have to work with. So that means that every time we do something, we have to worry about all the nitty-gritty. If we want to offset our graph, we have to manually say, hey, we're going to draw with this margin here. And so since it's a y-down coordinate system, it means when we want to draw this pixel, we have to draw it from the top. This will become more clear later. We'll go over it again. But the gist is, there's lots to keep in our head, and D3 is going to help us, but it's not going to magically make all the problems go away. So let's get started. Here's the Git repo that you guys can go and visit and clone. There's a little short version if you want to type your characters. Basically, it's a simple little repo with an HTML page and a couple of scripts to help us get some data ready. And then we'll get started. So I'll give everybody maybe 2 minutes to get set up, and then we'll get going. So I'll do the same thing, just as an example. This is a good size. Can everybody see what this is readable? Great. Okay. make a script that will run and download some files. So eventually what our goal is I found a New York City, you guys remember the New York City City Bike project? So New York City City Bikes, there's a project where people can rent bikes for like an hour or 2 hours at a time for, kind of ad hoc, and take them to and from any subway station in New York. And so there's some really cool projects that have done really cool work with data, and so you can go to this website and read more about it, but the gist is we can get a CSV that has a bunch of cool little tidbits about the data. So what we'll do is we'll practice making a scatter plot of start time versus trip duration. And so you can do a lot of different things, but just for the sake of getting started, this is what we're going to do. All right. So one of the important parts first is in the script, there's a little make server command. So we're going to run that. And so what this is going to do is it will, if this happens, you can get denied, don't worry about it. It'll run a little server on localhost 8000. And this is our blank page. That's a little start where to start from. So what I've done is the actual data. Sorry, is there anybody getting stuck? Any issues? What's up? It's not? Okay. In that case here, what I would do is I would just no op it, and or let's see, McDonald's. It's not doing anything.
I made downloads work.
It worked. I will
Make servers this.
Okay. Okay. We'll come back to that, but I think the gist is we're supposed to download CSV and unpack it and have it there. So in the index.html, we've already got a couple. We got a giant JavaScript object. Is everybody's like roughly familiar with JavaScript, right? Cool. Okay. So this is like a sample of basically the CSV in a JavaScript array. What we'll do is we'll get to a point where we can pull the data from the CSV directly, but it's like 9 megabytes and a bunch of stuff. So we can start small. We'll start with 10 sample rows. So, like I said, our goal is to draw this to the screen. The first thing we need to do is figure out how to map our data to like pixels, right? Because at the end of the day, pixel and data are not the same thing. So we'll start out with, it's called a scale. In this case, we're going to make a y scale. So, like I said, we're going to map on our x trip start time and our y trip duration. So we'll say y equals d3 dot scale dot linear. This is a constructor. And we'll just let's go in the browser real quick and we'll check it out. So we have our rows object. You guys are familiar with the Chrome tools, or kind of opening up the browser and seeing what's there. So we have here's the source. There's the rows variable. So we can access it here. Rows of 0, and we got a. Oh, there we go. Here's an object. It's got some properties. So, for example, we notice it's got a trip duration and a start time. So we're going to say, okay, we want to map trip duration, and we're going to make, like, we'll say make a graph that's like 500 pixels tall, right? So how do you map all these different trip durations? So like I said, we're going to scale. So here's an example of making one. So this is just going to make a scale. What do we do with it? And so D3 has this thing. We can set the domain of it. Domain is a pair of points, like a max and a min, or a min and max. So say we're going to go from 0 to 1,000. And we're going to output, what do we want to output? Well, since our goal is to output from 500 pixels, we're going to say range 0 to 500. So D3 has this habit of many methods will chain. So the result of y domain is the same y object. So you can do things like this. And it's really common to see things like that for gravity. So those just mutated our y object. And so now we can say, well, y is a function. So we can say, okay, well, what's y0? We get back 0. And that's the minimum, right? So it makes sense. That's like a linear mapping. So what do you think is going to happen when we plug in y 1,000? Gotta guess. What do you think y1000 is going to be? Yep, that's exactly right, 500. So y is the mapping from those two. And so what we use is then we can make one from our data, right? So the problem is, trip duration is a string here, right? So it's a little tough to work with. So what we'll do is first, let's quickly, we'll go in and we're going to clean up our data. So, is everybody familiar with the for each loop in JavaScript? Right, so not super familiar. And so, one of the things you'll learn in probably your classes here is like use useful variable names for working with data. What you'll find, for better or for worse, in a lot of D3 tutorials, is that people use the single letter D. And that's just a habit. And I tend to use it because that's what other people use, and it's more familiar in terms of tutorials. One quick note, like we're gonna put in a bunch of work and make a pretty simple graph. What I'm hoping is that people walk away with like this is the gist of how D3 works. And you can go and find tutorials and do the rest on your own because there's in an hour there's not much we can cover. So anyways, we know that duration is trip duration is a string. We want it to be an integer. So what we'll do is we'll just iterate over this loop and set things back to being an integer. Plus is like put a little shorthand for that. So we'll go back to our browser. Rows of 0.duration. Oh, trip duration. Oh, and here we go. Now we have a number. So what we want to do is we want to find what is the range of this trip duration. We want to find the max, right? Because we don't want to hard code that our graph is going to be kind of here or there, right? We need to make sure that our graph can update to handle the data we have. So we use some helpers that D3 provides for us. So D3 has a helper called max. So we can plug in max of rows. And by itself it's going to be not that great. It's just returns a random object. But if we provide an accessor function, we can say, okay, call this function on each element in the data set and use that to figure out to take the max up. So in this case, we can just return d.trip duration. And we get this. This is the biggest trip duration in that set. Does that make sense? Cool. So now we can put that back together with our scale. So we're going to say, okay, well, here's our scale. C.domain. We're going to go from 0 to d3.max of rows, function d. Okay, so then now we can do that range. We'll say we'll go from, so normally we'll go from 0 to 500, right? However, remember that like we think of things in terms of like y upright or the coordinate, the origin is the bottom left, but in SVG it's flipped. So we're actually going to flip this. So it'll be a little backwards, but it'll help us out later on. That's where we're going to set up our domain. So now, right, we can go back to the browser and we can say, okay, what's y of 0? 500, what's y of 1494? Like that makes sense, right? We have our scale. So now we want to make a scale for our x-axis, but our x-axis is time, right? And so time is not simply like time is numeric, time is linear also in this graph. But the problem is what we have is we have a string, so we need to clean the data up too, right? So say d dot start time. What we'll do is we'll use so date.parse is a JavaScript function that will help parse a string. So let's take a look at that. Rows of 0 dot start time string, right? Date.parse turns it into an integer, which will be milliseconds from the epoch. And then we can do new date of that. And we have a nice JavaScript object representing our date. And this is super useful because dates can be compared and formatted and all sorts of stuff like that. So, okay, does that make sense? So now we go back here, we take a look, and so rows of 0 dot trip duration is our start time is an object. So now what we can do is let's make an x-axis. And so this is going to be a slightly different constructor. Time.scale. In our domain, we want the min to be the min of the data and the max to the max of the data, right? Like within this window, things that we have. So luckily, to get both min and max at the same time, D3 has a helper called extent. So D3.extent of rows of function. Oh, my history has this for me because I practiced. It's a 2-element array of the min and the max. Does that make sense? Cool. So we'll just use that for our domain. And then what we'll do is make a range. And then since normally do a bigger range, but since we have like a small window here, we'll make it 0 to 500. Cool. So we just set up 2 helpers for our stuff. We got X, we got Y. So now we actually want to start drawing, right? And so this is where understanding SVG, understanding the HTML elements is going to come into play. So we have an empty page. So our end of the day goal is because we want to have something along the lines of this. We're going to make SVG element. So I'm typing, so SVG, right, because it's just HTML, you just type it in manually. So we have an SVG element. We'll say like its width is going to be equal to 500, and its height is going to be equal to 500, right? And we're going to want them in circles. So when there's a circle tag, CX is the center attribute. So we'll say, for example, we'll put this at 50. CY is the center Y attribute. Put that at 50, and we'll say R, we'll say 5. So this is going to give me a 5-pixel circle, 50 pixels from the top, 50 pixels left. So if we do that, here's our pixel. Here's our SVG. So if we wanted to manually, right, we could make 100 more of these. And there's no more pixels. However, we don't want to do that manually each time. Each time that's a lot of work. So we're going to use D3 to help us make these. And D3 has helper functions to make elements in the DOM. So for example, so we'll start out with D3.select body. So what this does is this returns back a selection object. And have you guys ever used jQuery? No. Okay. So the idea is, have you guys ever used CSS, right? It's familiar? Okay, cool. So there's an element named body in our document object. So we're going to use selecting it. And so then we're going to append SVG. So what we've just done is we've added an SVG element to the body. So now we go to the Elements tab. We can see that there's an SVG element there. I didn't reload the page, but that should be 2. Sorry. Now there's 1. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the console. We'll append a second one. So we just added it. Okay, so that's pretty exciting. I haven't done it, but now what we want to do is we need to update it. So what we'll do this time is we'll set attributes on it. So like we have the height and width attributes when we set them manually. So we'll do .adder. So append also chains. .adder also chains. So append will return the selection with the element we just made. Adder will set an element on the, so let's say adder width 500, or height 500. So now I'm going to comment this one out so we don't get confused. But if we go now, we check out our DOM. Look, there's an SVG that we just made, and that's our SVG variable. Cool. So now we have this SVG. We can put things inside of it. So we'll just start putting in circles. So right, if we were just in plain JavaScript, we'd be like, okay, well, rows of for each. We'd like we could add in, we could say svg.append circle, right? And that would make a new circle tag. We can do that, and it'll make a bunch of circles for us. So we'll say, okay, well, .adder cx. And in this case, right, well, we know what the x coordinate, we're going to use our x scale, right? So our x scale converts our time object to pixels. So we can say x of d dot start time, and we do adder cy, y of d adder radius, and we'll say, well, let's make 3. So what this is going to do, right, is we expect this to make like 10 circles position for us. And it did. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Cool, so here's the little circles that are plotted, right? However, this is not like what I call the D3 way. So what we just done is we just manually did something we have D3 help us with. So what we want to do actually is we want to make, because the problem is, so now what if later on we go and change the rows? So for example, the strip duration changes, or we want to add new points. We have to manually track this. So what we can do is we can use D3 to help us track which elements are bound to which points in our data. So we're going to make what's called selection. So we're going to say SVG and select all circle. And so this is different than select. One, because a select will return a single element, and select all will return up to many. But also because we can bind two things that don't exist yet. And so D3 selections are kind of the trickiest thing in D3, but they're also the most powerful. Because what we want to do is we want to say, look, like, we want to have a notion of object permanence, where like we could add, so have you ever seen a graph transition to add new points or to filter or to zoom in? What it's doing is it's helping you take advantage of the fact that like this point represents one piece of data and it can move and change over time. And so D3 has this super important idea called data joiner selection, and we're going to take advantage of that. So we're going to not take full advantage of the feature now, but later on we can. So it's a little tricky, but bear with us. So dot data is how we're going to say, okay, now attach to each, so this thing says, okay, we're going to select all the circles. Now we're going to attach to each circle some data. So we have rows, right? Rows is an array. It's really important that data is an array. So now, circles is the selection. What do we do with the selection? So in a selection, there can be things that already exist in the DOM, things that don't exist yet, and things that need to be removed. So there's 3 parts. There's kind of circles that enter, circles, and circles that exit. So circle that enter, what this does is this like, okay, now this gives us a handle for all the data points that are new that don't have anything rendered for them already. Does this make sense? It's like a little tricky, but okay. So what we'll say is, right, so for every circle that has something drawn for it, we want to append a circle. And the same thing. So, but now we're not in a loop, so we don't have access to that one data element anymore, right? Or here we can just say, okay, well, we have the D, our data point, and we can just render it. So here we'll say is, okay, well, we want to set the attribute CX, but we can't just hard code one value. So what we'll do is we'll take advantage. D3 has, just like the min and the max function have kind of callbacks or accessors, so do these adder functions. So we can say function D. And now, this is going to call this function for each separate circle. This is where D3 gets crazy powerful. So then we're going to return x of d dot start time. We do our x1. And so again, you can still pass in like kind of immediate values here. So now I'll go back to here, and like we do the same thing. It's not that exciting because it looks the same, but it's super valuable. So one other thing about D3 is it's got a lot of helpers for transitions. And so, for example, what we could do is we could say, look, we're going to start out and draw everything at, we're going to add everything and starting out with like a radius 0, an empty circle. Then we're going to say eventually, where once it's already there, we can say circles dot R3. So this is like what it looks like is this. It just happens instantaneously. What if we say, okay, well, we want to animate that? With a selection, you can use the transition helper. So transition says, okay, we're going to start animating. So now it'll take everything that you have, take the changes we're going to apply, and apply those changes over time. So has anybody ever used, like, for example, core animation on iOS? Core animation, anybody? Okay. The idea is, when you have an animation, you need to specify start and like where you're starting from and where you're ending at. The idea between these two frameworks is you specify just the end, and where you basically say we're going to change from where we currently are to the end. So it makes animation really easy to write. So we currently are at 0, and we're going to animate to current state, which is at 3. So if we refresh this, you see that? Let me make it a little slower. Do you guys see that? So pretty cool trick. So what we'll do now is let's say, okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate kind of object permanence with D3. So I'm going to give each row an ID. This is just the numeric ID. So for example, we go back here, we go to the console. Rows of 0.id is just 0. Rows of 5.id is 5. The reason we're doing this, I'll show you in a second. So let's say, okay, we drew a batch of circles. Are you guys familiar with the slice function in JavaScript? Slice takes an array and gives us back a part of it. So what we'll say now is we're going to draw the first 5 circles. The first 5 circles. Here they go animating in. So now what we want to do is let's say, okay, well, so okay, what I just did is I quickly extracted the part where you rendered the circles into a little function. So we'll call render on batch. So we draw the circles, and what we can do is we can say something like set timeout. Well, basically we'll wait a couple seconds and then draw the next batch. Didn't work. Got the slice syntax wrong. So we're going to go from 5 to 10. So we draw 5, and then we draw, hopefully, 5 more. Nope. The problem is we didn't attach, we don't know, so we're drawing 5 different circles. So we're going to say, so the data function that binds our data to our elements takes a second attribute, which is called by ID. So it's another callback, and so what we're going to say is we're going to return d.id. So this means okay, the way we know which circle is which is by its ID. So now we do this. So you guys saw that basically we remembered which circles and they went away because we didn't have the same circles, which is fine. So what we can do now is let's say let's render all the data. So what we're doing is we're passing back, for the first time we're passing in 5 elements, and then we're passing back an array of more elements that include the same things. So we expect that 5 to draw, and 5 more you can add it. Does that make sense why? So we can even do kind of cooler stuff with this. So for example, so right now you see things are clipped, right? So in order to make our graph look nice, what we'll want to do is we'll want to kind of offset that and add margins and really cool things like that. So we'll do that real quick. So D3 has an element called the G tag. The G tag is just short for group. You guys know how in HTML there's div and span elements that are kind of they're just empty. They don't really do anything except to help group things. G is just like an SVG. So we'll say bar circles, or so we'll use a little append G tag. And so the thing about groups is you can move them as a group. So instead of doing SVG to select all circle, we're going to select inside the G element. So same thing renders, not a problem. Now we'll go back to our elements and we find this G tag with all circles in it. By itself, it's not that great. What what we'll do is, here's an example of adding a transform. So this is going to move the things 50 pixels in. Do you guys see that? So that's really nice that we can move the whole group like that. So what we'll do is now we'll say, okay, adder transform, translate, and we'll just call it 10. So now, rather than having to move each pixel, each one separately, or taking code map, we move the whole group. And it's really neat. Another thing D3 is super helpful with is making axes. So right, like we have a bunch of plots, but what do they actually mean? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so D3 has these things called axes. So let's take a look. Our x-axis is going to be, this is a constructor that helps us build an axis element. Axes are things that render scales. In this case, this is one that renders a scale for SVG. Because, like I said, D3 can use the canvas API, which is different, but we're not going to go there right now. So what we'll do is we'll say dot scale x. So this means, okay, I'm going to draw this axis for this scale. And dot orient, we'll say bottom, which means basically we're going to put it below our graph. And so we're telling it that so we can tell it how to render. And then we'll say is we'll do SVG select. We're going to append another group. What we're going to do is we're going to do .call x-axis. And so .call is a D3 helper. So for example, we can do .call function. And so with this element, we call it for everything that we have. So we did console.log this. And this is going to be a G element. So this is another callback. It just happens to log our selection of the G element. And so we can take advantage of that, or that's exactly what D3 takes advantage of, the x-axis. We just call it on the x-axis, and it's going to render for us. So here it is, our x-axis. What it did is it made a bunch of labels, and so we'll also, what we can do is we can specify it, so ticks. So we can specify the number of ticks, it's just more helpers that D3 has. I'm probably using a lot of weird functions. The D3 wiki is actually really good at documenting each and everything that can happen, as are the examples. I think that D3 examples are the best way to learn more different things. What I'm trying to cover is I'm trying to cover the basics of like what the different possibilities are. So real quick, we have our G tag, right? And just like we saw, G tags can be used to move entire groups of things. So obviously what we're going to do is we're going to take this G and we're going to do an adder transform. And so we know that so we know that we want to move it down, or we have 20 pixels in. We want to take it 20 pixels in from our height. We're also going to add in, our graph is 300 pixels tall, right? So since we don't want to go below our graph, we're going to do 300. That means we need to actually make our total SVG a little bigger. So say 400. Because otherwise it would be clipped, right? It would be, if our whole thing is 300, we're trying to draw 320, we're going to be outside, it would be clipped. So here is our graph. I'm going to make this a little smaller so that we can see a little better. So here we go, adding more stuff. And the cool thing is, these are just elements, and so we can even style them with CSS. So is there a question? Okay. So since these are just elements, right, we can style them. So if we take a look at them, D3 rendered for us some lines, or a path. So we can say is, okay, well, it's inside of a G. Let's give this G something that we recognize. So we'll say, so we're going to call this outer G tag x-axis. So now when we go find it, it's x-axis. So what we can do then is we can say, okay, well, for inside of the dot axis, right, it's whatever class we named it, path, we can do stroke, what, I think, no, it's, these spelling. No, okay. Again, so like, I wish I remembered it better, but I don't. So I believe it is stroke width. Yeah, stroke width. So stroke width. And it didn't work. So we can, again, one of the cool things of this being in the browser is we can use the browser to help us inspect what's going on. So we can see that it has the 1 pixel stroke width applied to it. There's the path, there's also the line element. So I think actually I want to split style of the line. And I want okay, so unfortunately I don't remember off the top of my head what the styles are, but the idea is these are just elements and we can style them. So I'll find an example later. Okay, so I think we have what, 3 minutes left. So quickly add a y-axis. So we're going to orient left because we want to draw on the left side. And we'll say, okay. So again, we're kind of just setting up a boilerplate. And again, we'll need to move our y-axis in a little bit. And did it make it? So it did, but I guess not enough. So what we'll do is we'll say, so again, I'm just going to mess with the widths here in the different paddings. Do everything at 50 pixels. Hopefully there should be room, but I guess it's not. Oh, and okay, so this is one of the, don't give live demos. Shouldn't have done that, but oh, so there's a typo. Parentheses. There we go. We have a y-axis for our chart. So, like I said, that was a lot of kind of seems like a lot of code for. It's a pretty simple chart. That's kind of how D3 ended up working. So, a little more world tour. I hope that was actually kind of useful. The tutorial we had before. Hopefully you can go through a lot of the same material, but go through it at your own pace. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer any of them. Thanks. And if anybody has any quick questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. Sorry. So that was Professor Duncan Temple is having a D3 workshop on, what was the date?
Friday the 3rd.
Friday the 3rd. More D3, more fun times. You seem like a friendly guy.
And now we have the closing ceremony in the next ballroom.
Thank you.